So I'm at 7th and Capitol, and one of the first stops is going to be the Visitor Center, Lincoln Home, and National Historical Site. Going in to see if we can get some tickets for the house tour. Doorknob, toy soldiers, chair back, restrooms. So this is a visitor center. Different stuff from Lincoln Home. Some of the toys they just play with. Stereoscope. I think it was kind of like an old movie projector kind of thing.
Hello, how are you, sir?
It's actually free to tour the area around here, including Lincoln's house. You just need to get a ticket to tour Lincoln's house. So here we are at the Lincoln Home National Historical Site. Got our ticket in there. It's about 10:35 and my tour starts at 10:55. Starts at 11, but you have to be there 5 minutes ahead of time. That's Theater 1. Plays on the hour. Now Theater 2 is where you go to start the tour. They want you there like 5 minutes ahead of time.
We're heading right to the Lincoln Home. Two houses you can go into without a guide: the Dean House and the Arnold House. The Dean House has three scale models of the Lincoln Home. A bit smaller when we first bought this home in 1844 for $1,500. It was more that size over there.
Okay.
The Lincolns lived here for 17 years. As they family grew, so did the home. The home is restored now back to the latter time period when they lived here. Think of when he's running for and wins election to the presidency. That's the time the home is restored to. The Arnold House over there has exhibits about how we restore the homes in the neighborhood. Because on 8th Street, except for that brick home, all these homes are Lincoln era homes. The Park Service has restored them back to look like they did when the Lincolns lived here. Okay? And I'll give you a little bit more of history of the house once we get inside. But we're going to head in, go to the left side to the parlor. Got to keep track of who's in front, who's Okay, so I mentioned the Lincolns lived here for 17 years. And yes, the colors that you saw outside, some of us were just a Quaker brown and shutter green, are the colors the Lincolns had it painted, at least at the latter time period before they left. Okay, that is the colors they had it painted. When they first moved, first major addition, this room right here, but it was not the back parlor initially. This was the master bedroom for a number of years. 3 Lincoln boys were born in this home when this was the master bedroom. 55 to 56, the Lincolns add the full second story like we see today, and then this becomes the back parlor. And then the house really came to look like we have it restored to look like today. And again, the latter time period when the Lincolns lived here. Now, after Abraham and Mary moved out of the home in February 1861, where did they move to? Washington, that's right. The White House, or as they called it, the Executive Mansion back then. And after that, neither Mary nor Abraham Lincoln ever stepped foot in this house again. okay? So they rent it out. And then Robert and his mom, and then finally Robert ends up owning the home, and then he rent the home until 1887. And in 1887, Robert Lincoln sold the Lincoln home to the state of Illinois for $1. Now, it has relevance today because of the conditions he put on the sale. The state had to maintain the home, and the public had to be allowed to go through the home free of charge. So how much were your tickets today? Free, right? Because of Robert Lincoln in 1887. Because when the National Park Service bought the Lincoln Homes, National Park Service bought the Lincoln Home from the state of Illinois in 1972, those same conditions applied. And then, of course, the Park Service is the one that developed the 4 square blocks into the historic Lincoln neighborhood. This was a regular neighborhood when the state of Illinois had it, okay? So the homes you see, Lincoln era homes I mentioned, where you see vacant lots, there were homes there when Lincoln lived here, but by the time the National Park Service bought the property, those Lincoln era homes no longer there, okay? An example, right across the street, 2 empty lots, there was a Piggly Wiggly grocery store across the street. Well, we took that out because we knew the Lincolns shopped at Kroger's, okay? Okay, so back to the Lincoln home. Parlor, the nice area where Mary could show off her taste of decorating. These walnut partition doors were here when they lived here. When they're closed, back area, Mr. Lincoln's study, front area, Mary Lincoln's parlor. And imagine Mr. Lincoln and the family and Mary's friends and neighbors sitting around these pieces of furniture, Lincoln on that sofa back there with his leg over the arm, perhaps. All the furniture in black upholstery, kind of been pointing out, except for that rocker, in the house when the Lincolns lived here. May 19, 1860, historic event occurs here. A delegation of just over 20 men has taken the train from Chicago to Springfield, specifically to see Abraham Lincoln. They're coming from the Republican National Convention that had just been held, and at that convention, Abraham Lincoln, excuse me, underdog candidate, was nominated on the 3rd ballot. Underdog candidate, so it wasn't expected. But back then, winning candidates didn't give an acceptance speech at the convention. They stayed home, and a delegation was sent to notify officially the candidate. So Lincoln knows what went on at the convention. He's got a smartphone, after all, right? Yeah, sure. Through the telegraph. There's something called a telegraph. That's how he knew, okay? And they know they're coming. Mary and Abraham Lincoln, they know they're coming. So at 7 o'clock in the night, those guys came in the front door into the parlor, just like we did a few minutes ago. But right outside, Willie and Tad, the 2 youngest Lincoln boys, greeted every one of those guys on the way in. With Tad, the youngest, going, "I'm a Lincoln too." He didn't want to be forgotten. They asked him, "Will you accept our nomination?" And he says, "I will let you know my answer in a few days." He does say he's honored. He knows the responsibilities. "I'll let you know my answer in a few days." 4 days later, he accepted the nomination. But in many senses, this is where Abraham Lincoln's formal road to the White House started. And you're going to go through the sitting room and into the dining room. Here's things to look for. Dining room table is the actual family dining room table. In the corner, there's a game table. It pulls out.
There's a dividing wall, dividing door.
And I put the same newspaper. Those were, I know what they were. Very simple. I'm going to stand back here, so if you guys can come all the way down here, maybe double up as far as you can, so we can get everybody in. A little bit warm, guys. Okay, thank you. Excellent. So they called this the sitting room. That sounds formal to me. Think family room, den. The formal room we just left, that's the part. This is where the boys for instance, would play with their dog. Well, his name was Fido, okay? Mixed breed lab retriever. But if you were going to ask me, well, let's ask Mary. If you were going to ask Mary Lincoln, was her husband a dog or a cat person, she would have answered this way. I think one of my husband's hobbies is collecting cats. So I would say he was a cat. He liked Fido, but I would say he was more of a cat person. All right. Now, imagine Abraham Lincoln lying on the floor here with his head up against the rocker, maybe propping it up, reading. He read a lot in here to himself and to his boys. So imagine him down here. The boys come in, they hop on him, they're going to wrestle around for a while. Then he said, okay, we're going to read, okay? And then Mary would read a lot to them too. She put on plays, had them play roles in the plays. Imagine her at the front table sewing. That is her sewing table. And that mirror above the sewing table is a Lincoln piece as well. Now, one of my favorite things in this room is the box on that table, the big box, the tall one. It's called a stereoscope. You open up the top, put photographic plates in. If you look in the eye holes, the pictures, and the Lincoln boys would have been fascinating. The pictures look three-dimensional. So we're going to head up to the bedroom area now. And when we get upstairs, I'm going to lead the way. I'm not taking a shortcut this time. We get upstairs, take a quick look, stair curves, quick look in this bedroom above this room here. It's the guest bedroom. And I mention it down here because of all the beds you're going to see, that's the only one the Lincolns own. It's called a sleigh bed. You'll see why, because of the style. And then our tour is going to continue on the other side of Lincoln's bedroom.
Here's the guest bedroom. Above the family room.
So, we have had some comments about this wallpaper already. These are the two rooms. We talked about the wallpaper a little bit, didn't we? I think I said it's used for security. But anyway, these are the two rooms. We know exactly what the wallpaper looks like. Okay? And this, yeah, it's a reproduction. This is what Mary picked out. Those two rooms. Okay? And these two rooms, by the way, Mary Lincoln's room, Abraham Lincoln's room, Mary Lincoln's bedroom, they shared the bedroom downstairs. But when they built the full second story, they built a bedroom suite, two separate but adjoining rooms. Okay? This was the style if you could afford it, and they could afford it. Okay? So they have this big, nice house, not a mansion, but a big, nice, comfortable house, 3,200 square feet. Mr. Lincoln, the Lincoln family, not rich, but certainly upper middle class. Up at the front is my favorite piece of furniture in the whole house. That is Mr. Lincoln's writing desk. He worked on that desk. Imagine him jotting notes to himself at that desk, and they're going to end up on the House dividing station in 1858 in Springfield when he was nominated to be the Republican Senate candidate. Okay? So in the 1858 election, he runs for the Senate in Illinois against Stephen Douglas. Let's go to election day, November 6th, Tuesday. It's after midnight, but he knows he's won when the results from New York State come in. And he's down near the telegraph office, and he comes home, and Mary's probably in the sitting room. He just left. He goes, "Mary, we are elected. We're going to Washington." I think it's interesting. He says, "We are elected." They are both ambitious people, Mary and Abraham Lincoln. You know, when Mary was 11 years old, you know what she told a friend of hers? "I'm going to marry the President of the United States." That's pretty ambitious. A door here, and there was a door that you probably over there, and there would have been a door when we went into Mr. So all those had doors. Okay. And by the way, speaking of doors, all the interior doors on the first floor, walnut, original. Oh, Lincoln by Spielberg?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And he showed him putting papers on.
Papers in his hand. Yeah. You know, on the other side of the dining room earlier. So this is the last room in the house. Okay. Mary cooked on the very stove we're looking at. They bought it in 1860, and she did the cooking for the family. Lived in for 17 years. And most of us, I think of Abraham Lincoln with a beard. But not when he lived here, until the very end. Yeah.
It's a backyard view. So this is the end of the Lincoln House tour. So we were inside. I'm gonna go to this house next, which is the last of the ones that we could tour, and then walk up and down the streets, then head over to the Capitol and then the burial. So here's the beginning of the trail. There's a bunch of old houses. You can tour 2 of Lincoln's neighbors' houses, which are self-tours, and then the Lincoln House is actually a guided tour. So this is the Lincoln Home National Historical Site. It's 4 square blocks of houses restored where they could, including Lincoln's house, which you can tour. So Lincoln's house is actually right here at 8th Street and Jackson Street. So here's Abraham Lincoln's house. So I'll walk down each of the streets and then just do a visual walkthrough. If there's any placards, I'll stop for those as well. So this one you have to do the guided tour. They have a lot of good information. There's the front door. See what this one is. Oh, it's a conference center. This one doesn't have a placard, so I'm not sure what it is, but it's an old historic home as well. Kind of a cool view just looking down the street. So we did that side of the street now. Now we're going to move on to the other side. We'll do a full loop and come back around. So you have the plank sidewalks. Different houses. Oh, that's operations. Some of them have the names of who owned them. See what this house is. Boyhood home of Julius Roswald. I do not know who that is. Oh, boyhood home of. Oh, part of Sayers Roebuck. That's interesting. It's the layout of the house. And there's the house today. Probably pretty cool at night. See the lights lit up. This house I'll go on a tour of because this one is open. So this is a Harriet Dean house. And we'll go inside now and take a tour of that. So the Dean house is 8:30 to 5 p.m. I'm assuming that's 7 days a week. The front door. I guess we could just go in. Lincoln portrait. It's funny, the face and eye detection's working. Pretty small type, so I gotta zoom in. Oh, so the house is at 8th and Jackson Street. Lincoln's house, not the one I'm in. I'm across the street from it. Different artifacts.
Sorry, here I am again.
Actually come out the front door when you're done with the tour. That one was self-guided. Coming out of the Harriet Dean house after the tour, self-guided tour, Lincoln's house. This was actually a Piggly Wiggly at one point, then they knocked it down for historical significance. The visitor center's over there. Now the rest of the houses we can't go in. Old-time cameras. Talking about the election and photographing his house. I don't know if we can get in there. Kind of a pinhole kind of camera. Here's another one. See if we zoom in how it'll work. That's kind of neat. Lost a thing there. When they did tours. So there's a house decorated for his funeral. And there it is today. Some more old houses, historically restored. Here's Mary Lincoln's circle of friends. To that house. Again, not all of them are marked, some of them are. I probably don't know who they were. Ellen Miller House. See if we can zoom in on that. An old cart there. See if there's significance on the other side. There's all the people in front of his house. And I don't know if this is the wagon right here, the same one. So it's in the same color scheme as Lincoln's house. Well, again, nobody lives in these. They're all for National Park Service. So they use them for different offices and whatever inside. The Springfield Carriage Company. I'm assuming that actually was a carriage company. Now it's a bar and restaurant. So that's the Allen barn out there. It's a perfect day for this. It's only like 80 degrees. How about the names of the houses? They gave me a list, but I don't know. I think I left it in the car. And here's the cart. There's a better look at the other side of the street. Front of the house. And here's where they finish the sidewalk. So that's what's underneath. So this is another self-guided tour.
Well, we can start walking. Okay. This is interesting.
Going upstairs. So this house they used for how they did the restoration. Different stuff that they found. How to date a house. Different framing techniques. Different walls and joists. And they're moving some of the houses back. And we're back to the corner. And there's Lincoln's house. So there's the visitor center where you start. The parking's actually over there. And you can see the state capitol right there.